Good morning, I'm Harley Schlanger from the LaRouche organization with your daily video update for September 27th, 2022. I can tell you that the long-anticipated cold winter is starting early in Germany. The last couple of days have been quite chilly with rains and a bleak future ahead. We were told that Chancellor Scholz, the German leader, took a trip to the Middle East to try and secure some energy supplies. And it was a much hyped trip, but what was the result? Well, he went to 3 Arab Gulf states, hat in hand, asking for help. The United Arab Emirates, beginning in 2023, will provide 137,000 cubic meters of liquid gas. That's the amount that the Nord Stream 1 pipeline can produce in one day. It's unclear whether this is for the year or what the time frame of this is, but it's completely inadequate to replace what's been cut off. Secondly, they announced 250,000 tons of diesel per month will be available in 2023. Now, the United Arab Emirates can do this because they've quintupled the shipments of oil imports from Russia, which of course are not coming into Germany anymore. So they're getting inexpensive oil from Russia, then they're marking it up for sale in European markets. Meanwhile, from Qatar, the promise of liquefied natural gas, not available for at least 4 years. Same thing with the United States. The liquefied natural gas that was promised by Trump and then by Biden, it's not coming at least before 2025, maybe 2026. So we're about to have a winter of shortages and extremely high prices. For what? So that Germany could join the Anglo-American geopolitical assault on Russia. Then they can blame Russia for the misery that they, the Western leaders, are imposing on their populations. Now, this is entirely unnecessary, entirely self-imposed crisis. But let's just look at what these leaders are doing, why they're doing it. First, they provoked, and they're aiding the war against Russia. Secondly, they're using that to impose sanctions on Russia, which are backfiring against the West. Third, they're continuing to push for regime change in Russia. As Lloyd Austin said, the goal is to weaken Russia. And fourth, they're using the war to push their incompetent and inadequate green energy policies, which are part and parcel of the whole war austerity push. We're beginning to see the populations in Europe react against this, reacting against the policies of the transatlantic governments. There was a vote in Sweden, which brought a so-called center-right coalition into power there, driving out the Social Democrats. Then there was the vote on Sunday in Italy, which brought in a center-right coalition into government there. The coalition governments in France and Germany are very fragile and not very popular. Now, throw out the silly political science jargon of left and right, because that's the way people are manipulated. What we're seeing is a response of nationalists to the globalist policies that are associated with the Davos crowd, Great Reset, and Green New Deal. The issue is a return to sovereignty in reaction to these globalized policies and the failures of the European Union experiment. Now, the real solution is the LaRouche solution, a new Bretton Woods, the 4 laws of Lyndon LaRouche to reestablish the primacy of physical economy over and above the speculative economy, which is so beloved by the bureaucrats of the European Union and the imbeciles populating the US Congress. Now, meanwhile, what's the reaction of the politicians in Europe to the shifts that are going on now with the populations? Denounce the voters. Why are the voters going against this great European Union? Well, they're rejecting the poisonous policies that are being imposed on them. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, prior to the Italian vote, said, don't worry, we have tools to keep Italy in line. The same tools that are being imposed against Hungary and Poland as those countries are rebelling against some of the EU policies. Well, so much for democracy. When the voters vote, discount it. Insist that they stick with the program that's coming from the globalist elites who don't have to live under the conditions that they're imposing on the population. Meanwhile, they're attacking Russia for holding referenda in Ukraine, saying it's a sham, it's undemocratic. Well, I wonder how governments in the UK and Germany would do if they faced a referendum vote. Look at the United Kingdom. 11 million people cannot pay their utility bills. The pound has hit a historic low, and over 40% of the British food supply is imported, which means the costs will go up because the weaker pound will have to pay more to buy the food that's needed. So middle income and poor families will go hungry. Already, parents are missing meals so their children can eat. The United Kingdom is warning, economists are warning that there will be a crash of the housing markets of up to 40% based on the high interest rates and the economic policies of the government. Liz Truss announced a large increase in borrowing to cover the costs for the United Kingdom's continuing war policy in Ukraine. Meanwhile, she's going to have a tax cut, big tax cut, biggest ever for millionaires, while there's no increases in wages for workers. So labor unions are going to take to the streets in the United Kingdom. They'll be joining farmers in the Netherlands and Germany. Protests are building in Belgium, in Austria, in the Czech Republic, because the populations are not as disengaged from reality as the politicians are. But what kind of shock will it take to bring these governments back to their senses? I'm not sure that can happen. There's an ideological brain damage in the free market geopolitical minds of those who are running the system, running it into the ground, and who are intentionally ignoring, the cries for help from their populations. But the question is, what about the population? Are people so disengaged from reality that they won't come out and protest these policies? What would it take? A total economic and financial collapse, or perhaps a nuclear war, in which case it would be too late? Well, the positive news is there's an emergence of a new system. And as Russian economist Sergei Glaziev said in a message on Lyndon LaRouche's 100th birthday, Glaziev said that LaRouche's policies are being adopted all over the world, especially in the South, the global South. And these policies are working. Policies of physical economy, the American system, investment in entrepreneurs, in industry, in advanced agriculture, in research and development, and cutting off the speculative system, as the Chinese and others are doing. The move toward a new financial system away from the dollar is taking place at breakneck speed. With the pound collapse, the euro collapse, the dollar is staying up because of high interest rates. How long will that last? So the question is, how long will the European lackeys of the Anglo-American system continue to push these policies which are harming their people while they run around patting themselves on the back for their democratic policies? The real autocrats are in Brussels. The real dictators are in the City of London and Wall Street. And it's time for the people to take action, take to the streets, but do it sensibly with a real program. Now, I hope to have an update tomorrow on the Supreme Court hearing in Ukraine today about the overturning of the banning of the Progressive Socialist Party of Ukraine, which is one of 16 parties that was banned by the Justice Ministry in Ukraine, the so-called Justice Ministry. So hopefully we'll have an update on that. And I want to remind people that when we're talking about an alternative, on October 15th, the Schiller Institute will have an international youth conference on defeating green fascism and going to a new Bretton Woods. We can't allow the likes of Ursula von der Leyen, Liz Truss, and the Biden administration to take the future away from young people. But you don't have to be young to register for this. At the bottom of the description section of today's update, there's a registration form for you to register to become part of this movement, to join us on October 15th for a discussion of what can be done to enter into this new security and financial architecture and break once and for all with the Davos World Economic Forum, Wall Street, City of London, globalized world dictatorship. So take my advice, sign up, join us, and I'll see you again tomorrow.